from a space in time. The whole Caribbean one line. If we don't know from where we coming, then we can't plan where we going. That's why some want to be communist, brother, some want to be socialist, and one set a religion to add to the foolishness. Look, a man who don't know his history, can't afford no unity. How could a man who don't know his roots form his own ideology? Like one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. Caricom and then Carifta, but somehow I smell in disaster. Mr. West Indian politician, I mean you went to a big institution, and how come you can't unite 7 million? When a West Indian unity, I know it's very easy. If you only rap to your people and tell them like me, them is one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. You say that the Federation was imported quite from England, and you're going and form a Carifta with a true West Indian flavor. But since Carifta started running, morning, noon and night all are hearing, it's just money speech, them Prime Minister giving. But I say no set of money.
Yes indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central. Our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good night to you. Yeah, I thought I should give you a little shot of Joshua doing his homework, work that we gave to him. Because this is about diligence, it is about assiduously focusing on what is required for a productive future. A productive future in terms of the individual, a productive future in terms of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, they are the future. And these days, of course, as you know, different to Eric Williams's days, the future of the country is no longer in the school bag, but in their computers. It is obsolete, it is Jurassic, it is a state of myopia. If it is that any leader tells us today that information technology and the associated efforts to become literate in that regard, you ignore, but you will do so at your own peril, because technology is the way to go to advance the country, the world, and to make your contribution and to remain relevant. Let's see a little more from, of course, the late Black Stalin in terms of the Caribbean man, because we're going Caribbean tonight. I understand that, of course, Barbados have their elections today. We don't know what the result is, but I'm sure that the very sagacious and the very knowledgeable callers will, of course, switch their dial a little bit in order to, of course, take in what has happened in Barbados. I say by now, they should be, because a small country, so they should be getting the results at least almost complete or total.
The Federation done dead, and Caribbean going to bed, but the cult of the Rastafarian spreading through the Caribbean. It have Rastas now in Grenada, it have Rastas now in St. Lucia, but to run Caribbean, yes, you get in pressure.
Yes, indeed. Of course, let me apologize for the last 2 days. It has been a very frenetic one, a very hectic one, a very, I think The Americans use the term when vessels are moving in the water, they call it kinetic, kinetic energy. Well, that's energy that propels. So I would say it was extremely kinetic the last few days and hours. And those who I had to, inform as to the development, because right here I was preempted before, at almost just after the start of the program, the last 2 days, I got a call from the Prime Minister's office, and as a consequence, I had to move into action. Well, I want to tell you, it is good news, but I cannot give you the totality of it or the specificity of it. It will be revealed in due course. Suffice it to say, I've always said that good things come to those who wait. And of course, to use another cliche or another maxim or axiom, hurry birds build what? Awful nest. And of course, there's another one consistent with that, and that is, some people say, where horse reach, donkey will reach. And of course, you can akin that to the statement that, of course, if it is that you are to hurry, the mistakes that you would make when you are more focused, much more diligent, much more in a situation where you can make less mistakes. In other words, it's better for anybody in that situation. Hurry birds, as I say, big bill badness. Right? So I thought it was important. But let me formally apologize once again for not being on last night and the preemptive program the night before, but it was due to circumstances beyond my control. All right? I want to say, of course, I was very, very pleased with Senator Kennedy Sirak Singh, the Minister of Planning, who we interviewed on the ground report this morning on, of course, Talk City 91.1, member of the TTT, Trinidad and Tobago Television Network, so to speak. And we had some very wonderful engagement. And that should, if people did not see it, well, you have the technology, use it to go back to, of course, the ground report this morning and take in the interview that I would have led with, of course, Andy the Pitbull in another place, but both of us asking, of course, the very hard questions that needs to be asked and answer needs to be provided. And I think he was most appropriate in that he was comprehensive and he is in a position to tell us where Trinidad and Tobago is going. In a nutshell, really, he is saying that, listen, it is just a matter of time before the true diversification and the rollout of this administration's policy to affect 70,000 jobs and making Trinidad and Tobago ultimately, really, in real terms, be in a state of little unemployment or no unemployment. That is a tremendous thing. Coming from the fact that those who are fearful of that reality, in short time, we're talking about months, not years. Fearful of that reality, and that of course will keep them in opposition. Yeah, I talk about the PNM, obviously. Fearful of that. Engage in all kinds of what I consider to be throwing rice or throwing salt or throwing more salt or throwing stone or throwing pebbles in the current administration's rights, so to speak. Yeah. Since, of course, they would generate the panic and the pests and the pessimism. Yeah, they themselves being pests in that regard, political pests. But nonetheless, the 30,000 persons, they say, lost CPEP, URP, etc., that will soon be a thing of the past. And I want to tell you tonight, all the listenership across the Trinidad and Tobago and across the globe, that the PNM has yet to tell us if they would have won the elections on the 28th of April last year. Where would they have gotten the money from to pursue another budget and to manage the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago? Mind you, they had already indicated that they will not treat fairly with the public servants in terms of their just due, having worked for it. They have, of course, not focused in any way seriously on the collective bargaining process. In fact, they try to mash up, they try to fragment, they try to destroy the trade union movement in the country. Don't forget that. The closure of Petrotrin was in effect to mash up the OWTU. And the others, OWT being, of course, a monolithic target, the smaller trade unions will say, listen, let me put my tail between my legs, and whatever Imbert offered, as they did in a budget, 5%, after offering 4% increases over a certain period. And we know that subsequent to that, there would have been no additional if the PNM was enough, because their dictatorial, autocratic, and dogmatic style of management not just leaves much to be desired, but leave the working class in this country angry. We have about 600,000 of the 1.5 million people in the workforce in this country. About 600,000 of them. We know a substantial amount of them are unemployed, and there are those who are not seeking employment because they believe that the opportunity has dried up, particularly under the PNM. And the harsh and brutal and draconian measures that they would have instituted. And don't tell me about the narrative that they have projected. You see, there's a term called listen carefully, hypophoria. Hypophoria. Hypophoria is a term where, of course, people ask themselves a question and answer it at the same time. Hypophobia. But let's go to the lines. I think I would have had enough and directed you in the direction that I would have liked to go this on this program tonight. But go ahead. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
This is Diego Martin.
Yes, Mr. Diego Martin. Missed you a lot.
No, you was MIA every time I come, being out. You're closing the program. All right, let me start.
Yes.
I'm opening the bowling now.
Go ahead.
I hear him calling the imps. Marva, the former Minister of National Security,
Yes.
complaining about congestion on the roads. And I want to bring it to his attention. For the last 2 years, 2025 until say about August, September, and 2024, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
How did the people of South felt about the construction of the Charleville widening of the road and things like that, didn't they bear traffic for a whole 2 years?
Yes.
Did they come out and protest? Like these people had, as we say, yeah, yampies. And I start to listen to them fellas, and I say something is wrong. I mean to say they put this country under so much distress. They lie so much. They, like like they are no shame, you know. Just like Alwari, you ever listen to Alwari how they beating him up in Parliament? The only thing they call him yet a dunce. I know somebody called somebody a dunce. Eh? Oh, is Anel call Obika who jumped from the frying pan to the frying pan. They just get me vexed. But let me come to my substantial motion. All
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
You know about the Epstein files, right?
Yes. Yes.
I going to say the Achille Chambers files. All
Hmm.
right. You ever hear about a fella named George Chambers?
You ever heard what?
A fella by the name of George Chambers, a
Oh
former,
yes,
former,
of
former.
course.
Right. Remember a blonde? You remember he was associated with a blonde in Tesoro scandal?
Yes, 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 yes.
What
Some
did
foreign
any
trip that was taken
right,
and blending some let's say awkward scenarios.
right. But we didn't know the age of the blonde, right?
Yes.
All right. It could have be 15, 16, 17. He just like blonde, he might like them young. You ever hear about a former prime minister when he was a school teacher? Underage?
Yeah, well, I have been at the forefront of
Right,
both the brunt of the criticism as well
right,
as the advocacy for action to be taken because
right.
sexual activities with an underage person taking advantage as a school teacher, I think is so despicable, is so reprehensible, is so egregious that the criminal justice system does not give any leeway in terms of time bar. But go ahead. Yes.
What I'm going after to show you where the pedophile ring is and how it started and where it is. So I give you
Yes.
two former prime ministers, right?
Yes.
Two PNM. So I don't know if they have any linkages with Epstein because Epstein getting everybody involved, senior leaders in government officials all over the world. Right. So that's two. Let us go back to what took place at the house, right?
Yes.
Up somewhere in my bag. It was. They say it was a party and put a big question mark by that
Yeah.
being a party. It is something more interesting in that, and that is why I say we have a lot of inept police officers with respect to investigation and
Yeah.
who run afoul of the law. We should charge all of them. Right. If I go down the road and I think I said it already, and a police find a gun in my car, the first
Hmm.
thing they go do, they go lock me up and then make sure that I pay the price. You go tell me they find the body of a person who the coroner say wasn't drunk, was murdered, right? Was buggered and murdered, and you hold nobody. What
Hmm.
they should have done, hold everybody inside there for conspiracy to commit a murder. You can't tell me that is a simple thing. No. Was that lady the Gillian Maxwell of the Chambers files?
Uh-huh.
I'm just throwing out I'm just throwing out things there
Yeah, go ahead.
because these rings have a genesis and they have a disposition that you're watching them straight in the face and you're saying hey, they can't commit that. That is why I tell you I joining all the prime ministers before, right?
Right, yes.
Right. No,
To
I'm
show
going to the
a pattern of
right,
action. Yes, yes. I
right.
see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the police hear this and they start the investigation now. So that
Right.
is one prime minister, two prime minister. The former prime minister, all right, the Chinese boy, right?
Yes.
The main witness carry the same name, right?
Yeah.
And if you dig deep, you will know there's an excess right there. First cousin, second cousin, Mahmoud, auntie, something like that. And we know his name, right?
Yes.
So three prime ministers involved, eh? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
they say he was a good Samaritan, picking up the boy all the time. Was he a good Samaritan, or was it an agenda, or was it, as they say, grooming? Think about it that way. You have to topple everything over and look at it inside out.
Of course, especially with these, what I can say, morally deficient individuals, as we have experienced. We are not talking Vike or by
No, we
abstract.
just
We are
connecting the dots.
talking on palpable, tactile proof that
Right,
cannot be refuted. Go ahead, my friend.
right. So I give you a set of dots based on the hierarchy of the PNM.
Yes,
Three prime directly have that sort of pedophilic behavior.
yes,
You understand? And
yes,
was the party a reflection for the true agenda?
yeah.
Because that's what they do. There's always a party,
Well,
and you
well,
don't.
well, I like to put things, try to look at things on both sides and what may be the causative agent. Is it that having been in office for so long, the entire mental and moral and ethical state of mind and the fact that they believe that they will be in office in perpetuity
Aye, aye, aye.
has degenerated their thoughts and thinking pattern to the point
No,
where they believe that Trinidad and Tobago, for example, belong to the PNM. you
right.
know, yeah. So anything they do, they have no difficulty in addressing or absolving themselves because they have developed a Sodom and Gomorrah type
Aye, aye, aye. You hitting it, and
experience.
they
Go
have
ahead, go ahead. I just put things in perspective. Go ahead, yeah.
and what they have done, they have normalized that type of behavior,
Yes,
and
yes,
what
that's right.
they have put their people in key areas to put stumbling
To
blocks.
prop that, yeah, to prop it up as well, and to
Right, and
institutionalize it and to make certain that
institutional.
it
That
becomes
is the word.
normative. Yeah, yeah.
Because they say a Cosa Nostra. It's not no Cosa Nostra. It have this nasty Gomorrah type like behavior that is
Yes,
embedded on it.
yeah,
And the acronym really says PNM, Pedophile National Movement. I mean
yes,
to say, I give you points that could tell you what has been going on. And the fact that both the PNM senators, the opposition senators,
uh-huh,
and independent has pivoted away from taking it to the privilege committee when naked. And then you have another senator, Alexander, telling us the people who is involved in it.
yes,
You understand? Because if the fella they call Obikawa, who made a lateral movement from the prime part to the fire, or from the I don't want to use a expletive, that he made that jump, and he tried to deflect in Parliament, bringing up a thing against Naked and say, why are he bringing people who is not in Parliament and has gone to the possibly great beyond? If he was so adamant about that standing order and he didn't get his way, can be easily done through a privilege motion, and the independent PNM senators, I'm sure they will join him, but they will never do it. Just like your issue with the school teacher from
yes,
Tobago.
yeah. Yeah,
Think
because I
about
mean,
it.
I have dragged that man. I talk about former Prime Minister
You
Rowley through
beat
the
him.
mud, through the dirt.
You,
I mean, there were people who vicariously were saying that that did not happen, and I should be, of course, sanctioned or reprimanded at minimum, because I am speaking on truth about the former Prime Minister. But the fact of the matter is that these things can be proven. There is a
Right.
birth certificate.
Because you
There
know,
is, of course, his birth certificate, and if he could have expunged that from the records, I'm sure they would. But because
right,
it is so poignant, it is so conspicuous in terms of the the records of the country, for the recording of births and deaths, etc., that one in spite of their willingness so to do, and we have seen them do that, whether it be licensing office in the case of Alwari, when
And the
his
Porsche,
vehicle,
and the
yes,
Porsche
when his vehicle was supposed to be transferred, and he produced a letter from some time ago, and of course the authorities and licensing office accepted it and give him a slap on the wrist and let him off free. Whilst, of course, you had David Lee facing, of course, criminal charges as a consequence of an allegation that clearly could not have been proven and was eventually dismissed. But go ahead.
because I'm waiting to get them on a program, Independence
Yes.
of PNM, and asking them point blank, why you're not raising it?
Yes.
Is it true? Because it has to be true if you're not raising it to whitewash it.
Yes.
You understand? Because Anil do the same thing to the former prime minister. He wouldn't, because Anil just beat him up so bad. He refrained
Oh
from
yes,
doing
I
the
saw
same
it. I
thing.
saw it. You had drawn to my attention, so I did take a look at it, and as a consequence, Mr. Grandy, call
No,
back.
I'm
I want
finished,
you
Lennox.
on the system, so just call back.
Right.
Mr. Diego Martin is winding up right now.
Yeah. Okay. Good night,
Okay.
Lennox. I'll listen off here now. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, indeed. So of course, we are extremely fortunate to have a program like the Corridor Transformation. Let me say once again, of course, my apology for not being on 2 nights now. I want to say, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, east, west, north, central in Trinidad, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. I too missed you as you have missed me. But that being as it may, we have some serious matters that we have to address. Yes, I know that. Yeah, so let me see if we're going to get him on. Right, so I got Mr. Grandy on the system itself. We want to be as efficacious as possible. A pleasant good night, Mr. Grandy.
Yes, well, a pleasant good night to you and my boy Joshua boy.
Yes. I saw. Let me just switch that camera there to pick him up. Yeah, you're doing some work there. Look him there in the corner there. He's doing some work.
Okay.
The blackboard is behind him, etc. All right.
Yeah. Right, Joshua boy. Don't want to jump up to one for Calabar, Joshua. Right.
Yeah, I think always.
Hand in the air, man. Hand in the air.
Yeah, he's always on my side. He's always on my side. I can't do it without him. But go ahead.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, boy. You know, I was hearing Andy saying what they about he singing calypso and why he make it, right? But I'd like to tell Andy the mistake he make in that calypso was he should have put in the calypso that his father say that he could marry Lisa, he could marry Lorna, he could marry Sheila, but you don't want him to marry Warner, right? But he could have smoked ganja and he could plant ganja so long as he marry Warner. And as he is a father, he know our woman. He like Lisa, he like Lorna, he like Sheila, but he don't like Warner. He don't like that woman how she does look. So Andy had no right to look to marry Warner. And that would have been good.
I hear you. I hear you. The subtlety, the subtlety of the references, I think it would have brought him much more commendations. And I want to say I will be posing that to him, so maybe he could revisit the song and render it the way that you have. I think the subtlety is conspicuous in terms of how you would have covered up the negativity of marijuana itself. Go ahead.
Exactly that.
Yeah, very good.
So I have a little thing to say about the Valentine's Day. I just hope again tomorrow, please God, I'll give other insight.
Yeah. Give me a little thing. Oh gosh, man, them fellas after us, they got the winner of the day. The ground reporting guide yet, and we had the most people listening and watching us. That is a anticlimax. But go ahead.
Well, what I had to tell them, I feel you'll get a first winner.
I hear you. Okay, my friend. Because tomorrow is the last day Friday is the
Yeah,
announcement and so on. Yeah.
right. So, but what I'm gonna say
Mm-hmm.
when I listen to Ian tonight, there
Uh-huh.
and and then what I realized hearing him talking about this gang in Tunapuna who holding on a whole area and thing. And I think about these senators and them. If they listen to Ian Allen, they're supposed to be really ashamed for what they do. Because to know is a very sad thing that the Zulu bill was trying to protect people, from these kind of gangs.
Yes.
And to see that happening now, and these people feel that they do something so great that even Rowley jumping on it too and saying, well, he like that. These people like they sick or something.
Well,
You know?
I always recall when these kinds of incidents take place, particularly at the highest level where decisions are made that has tremendous repercussions for the entire society. I remember us saying that a person who is doing wrong and believe they're doing right is extremely dangerous. And these
Yeah.
people have been the existential threat to the survivability and to the advancement of Trinidad and Tobago. And we must see them for who they are and make sure they never again see the corridors of power in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I share your view. Go ahead.
Yeah, what is seen there is some people who seen power as more important than the lives of the citizen.
That's right.
You see, they so much want to be inside there that it doesn't matter what happened to we, so long as them running the show, because like they're missing out. They're missing out this blue light and going with the one with the black vehicle and police carrying them, and it's a sort of thing that is getting to them, like they can't believe they're outside, and it had them just in a kind of uproar that they can't really take it on, and they're feeling so bad, but yet these people have no shame. These people have no shame.
Yes.
Dog eat the white at the eye. Yes, I have never seen some people like that. How people could be like that who living in Trinidad and Tobago? Trinidad and Tobago is not a place like that. How we could get these kind of people to live here amongst us and to say that they care for us when a simple thing that to take care of a citizen, you don't even want the government to do that. Everything this government do, that they're wrong. It have nothing right.
Mr. Granny is tying up, so just call back because I want you on the system. All right, go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Conclude, Mr. Gandhi.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, all right, okay. He has completed his presentation. I thought he had a little more to say, but of course, very, very interesting observations as far as decision makers are concerned and whether or not they really intend. Of course, his focus has been, as I have, that the ZOSO would have been a tremendous assistant to people like me. And last night I had a discussion with several shakers and movers in this part of the country or this part of the city, East Port of Spain, and we had the same conversation and the same conclusion that we would have drawn, that these independent senators in particular, on whom the government depended for the ultimate numbers that was required for the special majority, failed us, and therefore their independence squarely are really questionable. But let's go to the line. A pleasant good night to welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to all and sundry, east, north, west, and south, and even in Tobago. Yeah, Dr.
Yes.
Boca Reef and all too.
Oh yes.
So
I think the Boca Reef is back on board.
no, the blue wave.
Yeah, but the Boca Reef was down for a while as well, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dried
it
up
was down for a while. And the Spirit as well, the TNT Spirit was down for a while as well.
And the APJ, one was mandatory dry docking, and one was for technical problem, the Spirit.
Yeah.
And
then the mysterious galleon passage was doing some chores or some duties that was supposed that was intended for that elusive port from Togo to Tobago. But let's go. That's a different story.
No, we are on the right track because where I coming from, right?
Yes.
I want the listeners to understand. A pleasant good night to each and every one.
Yes.
Right? Today on the Grog Report, some strange reason my phone drop off when Andy asked Mr. Faizaman,
Mr. Faizaman has just started, so you'll have to hold on a little bit, but of course I'll get you on the system. I prefer the system rather than on the handset. All right? Go ahead, Mr. Faizaman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about Senator Surak Singh, right?
Yes.
Statement, okay? Yeah. And I would like the listeners and them to understand this very carefully, right? Colin India as finance minister and Lahir as the central bank governor had used the statistic office, right? The
Central Statistical Office, yes.
Officer to fabricate and suppress them of releasing genuine state of the economy report and on unemployment. And everybody who listened to that interview this morning, I don't think they pick up on what the reality is today. No? That is reflection, what we are experiencing right now in our country. No?
Yeah.
Right? And where he said that to bring laws to make it mandatory, right, for the Central Statistics Office to put the report, right, forward, just like the Auditor General, how it is just a time it had to come and must be late to bring that to. Because India and them had pushed this economy so deep in the bottomless pit of hell. The citizens understand where we is and where we stand as a country.
Yeah.
And the central bank governor Lahir said that this economy grow, it all kind of thing, padding it up without substantial evidence.
Yeah.
And that report alone and that statement and that interview have plenty things. And one thing, I'll just take it at 2 seconds because it's something I have to vent for the longest while.
Go ahead.
You see Raja Hussein?
Mm-hmm.
That economist, I went to shut him out. I called him out, tell him that it's Faizabad. And tell him he could send a pre-protocol action letter for me.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Because here what's going on.
Yeah.
Under Rowley stint, use their cut subsidy, cut employment, cut government expenditure, recurrent expenditure. India take away toilet paper, pen, pencil, from the school, the working class, water, everything from the public service where people are supposed to get in the office. Uniform grant, shoe grant, everything for the workers and them, they get in. And Raja Hussein said divest and cut and it will balance out the budget. And here we have a deficit over $14 billion in true indicators. Uncle Lennox, tell me, our economist, that he keep coming and opening the bumping the gum, right? And now saying don't pay the people the back pay. It comes just like how when Basdev Pandey, the late Prime Minister, came into government in a suppressed economy. He started 2 mega projects, the airport and the LNG, one in North and one in South. And and start to get the economy going again by getting this project up. People will have an earning and they will get money to spend and creating spending. So when the public servant and all who get the little cash money, it will encourage who have house repairs, who have other things to do. They will spend the money wisely and you'll start to get the wheel turning. Look what they do with the inland revenue and how much people benefit from the inland revenue dilapidated. How much money went on the tech. And then you're hearing how much contract these fellas and them in the PNM from the chief bottle washer to the janitor who owe him $500 million. Uncle Lennox, it's time we as a citizen had to start a call for the Attorney General to get serious. And you know who you had to go after? You see them permanent secretaries and them? Because in the last government, they were boasting that is the permanent secretary who spend the money and not the ministers and them. The example to set, because $500 billion, right? And no, you're hearing that these fellas and them, India come up to say that the IMF say they're concerned. But India run this country for 10 years when they could get investment and other ways to get money revenue stream. He used the austerity measures of the IMF and run this country and suffer people. But you know what the trustee to come back in for? You see the dragon gas deal, the coca manatee, all our money. And it's still questionable. I want to find out how this shell can get 30 years license and what is the true benefit for we. Have a pleasant good night. Now others, I'll call back.
Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. Of course, as I said, the caller before, the caller during the course of the last callers, meaning that Mr. Faizabal's call, you can call now. I'm sure that you've been listening, and therefore you'll know to take the time in. What I don't have, of course, as a mechanism is a waiting mechanism so people can wait in line. So what happens is that the call goes to my handset. I can see it, and then, of course, but you wouldn't be able to get on the program until the person who is occupying that space leaves, as is the case now, so that you can get in. So I would suggest in future and now moving forward that you listen first, and when that person is about to complete his or her presentation, you then call so that we'll be able to take you on the system itself so that we do justice to your effort. Of course, several things that the last caller brought out that I think we must take note of, because he made reference, of course, to that of Minister Sirat Singh's presence, Minister of Planning and Economic, of course, Development, as well as Minister in the Ministry of Finance. And he did allude to the fact that first and foremost, let me agree with the last caller that there was a level of complicity to deceive and to manipulate the economic statistics. Because what we had, even though they claim that they would have criticized the previous administration, I'm talking about Rowley and they, criticizing the previous UNC under Kamala Prasad Bisesa between 2010 and 2015 of not funding adequately and providing the human and other technical and material resources for the Central Statistical Office when they got at their turn at the office for 10 years. They prefer to get statistics out of the central bank. The central bank was the place we had to rely upon as they provided their respective bulletins and their statistics, and it turned out to be bogus. We will look at that and focus on the conspiracy that occurred between the central bank and the government of the PNM under Rowley, and of course his subsequent ephemeral successor. I'm talking about Stuart Young, who was there for about a week, if so long. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, good night, Doctor.
Good night to you, my friend.
Yeah, good night, Joshua, and good night, Trinidad and Tobago. Good night, worldwide.
Yeah, let me
Doctor,
just switch to him there so you can see him. But go ahead, speak in the background.
Yeah. How long Miss Kamala in power?
Just about 9 months, if so long.
Right,
in this new iteration, yes.
Right, 9 months, right? Now, the only thing I will be until I dead is a human being, right? So that means I wouldn't be no PNM until I dead. I wouldn't be no UNC until I dead, right?
Right. Okay.
Because if I see somebody doing strippiness, I I know I oppose that. All right.
Okay. Yes, fair
But
enough. Yes.
yeah, but Miss Bissessa, she in power 9 months, right? Now the CPAP workers, I do like how they were sent to, right?
Okay.
But at the end of the day, right, we have to give the lady a chance
Right.
because sometimes things do always go your way, right? Because if she in office for 9 months and she get rid of the CPEP workers, all right, it's
Mm-hmm.
either she vindictive or she have a plan,
Right.
right? So you give the lady a chance to see where she coming from.
Okay.
Although it's tough on the CPAP workers, all
Right.
right?
Right.
But I personally will rather give her a chance and watch because it's 9 months and the people, I know it's hard for them, all
Right.
right? But sometimes that is just how it is. And the next thing too is 10 years CPNM is them put me in this position, all right? Good. Anyhow, um, no, the PNM, the PNM gang, right?
Mm-hmm.
The everybody, all of them finding this fault about the prime minister and that fault, right? And the lady only in for 9 months, right?
Yes.
No, no. You know, they ain't talking about when PNM got into power, it's thousands went to. Because I used to call them the send home government, right?
Yeah, but
Thousands go
they
to,
seem to have selective and convenient
uh-huh.
amnesia. You know,
You
amnesia, you
understand?
forget. They do
That
that
right.
conveniently and believe that at the same time that people of Trinidad and Tobago are stupid. But go ahead, my
You
friend.
understand?
I
Right.
thought I should interject that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when they come into power,
Uh-huh.
thousands of people go home.
Yeah.
Boom, Petrochin, thousands people they leave the place like a ghost town because of that people around Petrochin making a living. They don't care
Yes.
about that, right? When after that they want to privatize this and privatize that.
Yes.
Demerit points, send you home. You go home to your hungry children. Take away your permit. Go home to your hungry children. No work for you. You know, they're forgetting that. They're forgetting all these things. And the lady, 9 months, she closed down the CPAP workers, and all them could see is the CPAP workers,
Yeah.
right? Why you ain't talk about all them people what the PNM was victimizing? Eh? And next thing too, the fears, the tickets, right? I find it too
Like
high.
the traffic tickets, right? You're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I find it too high, but it's still better than the numeric points because you still have a chance to go there and make a dollar. When them take away your permit because it have police, them hiding, them running you down the slightest thing is ticket and 3 points and
Yeah.
6 points. The slightest thing, doctor. You understand? These people very vindictive and they want to get back in power. So them just attacking the lady.
Yes.
Give the lady a chance.
Yeah.
You
And I want
understand?
to tell you, you know, it is not often I do it, but to tell you to go to the top of the class, because here it is. You have introduced another segment with a built-in proof of what you are saying about the last administration, meaning the
Right.
PNM, because here it is.
Yeah.
They in an attempt, of course, to have their way, because they lost the elections in Tobago, they
Yeah.
took officers from Tobago, both police and the traffic officers, and sent them to Tobago to literally harass the people. We cannot forget that. We cannot take that out of the equation to reinforce the vindictiveness and the belligerence of this of that particular administration under Rowley, and they, simply because they believe that they alone must manage to the detriment of Trinidad and Tobago all the resources that would have been reposed in the hands of any government or any quasi-government institution such as the Tobago House of Assembly. Go ahead, my friend. I thought I should interject that so people understand clearly. So I thank you for, of course, introducing it in the way that you did, but to expand it to prove that the PNM is the greatest threat to Trinidad and Tobago in terms of our economy and in terms of our development and advancement. Go ahead.
Yeah, the plane they like people, but they ain't like nobody. The plane they like people because if you really love your citizens, you go in and send on people to the hungry children. No man, them people.
And mind you, sorry to interject, but I think you are so on the point tonight that I feel compelled to make some introduction here, just to expand. And here it is, that even when they make the argument that the increase in traffic fees is so exorbitant, is so pernicious, is so debilitating. Here it is, you have the government saying, for the purpose of conduct adjustments and focus, we are going to raise it so that you would have greater responsibility. And if you don't, then of course you pay the price. But more importantly, even when the PNM was saying that that was draconian and that was wicked and that was barbaric and that was almost pernicious, they came back and they went to Parliament, not executive order. They went to Parliament and then say, listen, if within 3 to 7 days you don't correct, then you will have to pay. What is your view on that? Because it demonstrates, again, the flawed position of the PNM, trying to make the UNC what they know they are and are in fact so. But the UNC has been able, of course, to show and demonstrate that they are not what the PNM is attempting to project to the population, that they are harsh, brutal, inconsiderate, insensitive. And therefore, they came up, of course, with this legislation, not given, as you rightly said, not given the discretion to the licensing officers or to the police. Notice that. They put it in law where they have to say to those motorists that may find themselves running afoul of the law, whether they have a broken windscreen, whether the lights are not working, listen, you have 3 to 7 days to fix that before, of course, we institute that which Rowley and Imsbert and the PNM and Penelope Beckles and they attempted to say that it is harsh of the present administration and that they are deceptive, etc. What is your view?
So the put that is in law. They have to the warning.
Yes, so the police have no discretion, so they can't play no. They get up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, and they want to, of course, victimize about 6 persons, and for the slightest and something that could be easily remedied by just a nice discussion or overlooking and tell the person, well, if I catch you again, wherever it is. They didn't leave that up to them at all. They put it in law, so they have to. Yeah. So you can demand, listen, if you just stop me for a broken, let's say, headlight, well, you have to first give me a chance to remedy it by going to these various stations before you implement the very high fine or fee that I would now have to pay if that particular measure was not taken.
All right. So they give you about 7 days.
Yeah, 3 to
So,
7 days. Yeah, depending on the gravity
oh,
of the infringement. Yeah. They
right.
put
You
that in
see?
law immediately.
You see? You
They
see?
leave it to the police. They leave it to the license officers. And
Right.
therefore, I said all this really to say the PNM has no case in terms
That's
of
right.
attempting to
Yeah.
make the present administration look as though
Yeah.
they are evil, they are wicked, they are
Yeah.
diabolical, because they see in others, the PNM that is, see in others
Yeah.
that which is in them. Go ahead.
Yeah, you see, when a man drunk, if you see a feather, he pulling down that, eh?
Well, right, and that is the
And
PNM. Well said.
yes, and that is what going on here. You
Yes.
understand? Them grasping at feathers right now to
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
down the UNC.
yeah.
You know?
The public
Now,
grasping
one
at
more
win
thing.
as
I
well.
don't want to, huh?
The public grasping at win as well, but not that which
Yeah.
comes out of the mouth, even though that might be a bit toxic, but that which may come out from the rear. Don't talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, I don't want to stay too long because I know about the callers,
Yeah,
right? But what
this
last thing,
conversation.
doctor?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
conversation very
Last thing,
interesting.
doctor.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, last thing, right? No.
Yeah.
Miss Kamala and the government, you all, right? Still saying, well, they stop the CPAP, right?
Yes.
And they're still giving the people hope that in a certain time, just have patience, in a certain time, they will fix it.
Yes.
You understand? So they still, any way you look at it, UNC superior to this bunch of criminals, which is the PNM. Right?
Well said, my friend, and appropriate analytical conclusion.
Yeah, brother.
Yes, thank
All
you
right,
very much,
brother.
sir.
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
you stay strong, and Joshua, tell Joshua stay strong too, man.
Let me see if I see him there. Let me see if I see him there. He's sleeping or I see he head down. All right. I ain't seen anybody
Yeah,
else.
brother.
I cannot see anybody else with how the camera is, right? I can't see anybody else. So.
Yeah. Oh, you mean yes. All right. Anyhow, all right, brother. Well, thanks for the
yes,
for the conversation.
Yes, same here. All right,
yeah, brother.
Friend, let's get back here to yes. So people. Yeah, you have it, and I'm always amazed with the level of intelligence that are displayed by callers, and not just in terms of their ability, not just to adapt and to articulate, but their knowledge of the factual circumstances which would have caused them to call into the program and to, of course, share their respective views and experiences and opinions. I think it augurs well for those who may be a bit timid or prefer to listen, but are equally intelligent and would like, of course, to build on what they already know and have, and therefore can reach the inescapable conclusion, as we have been doing on this program, when we are pressed or when we are deciding on any particular issue, whether it be that of elections, whether it be that of the economy, whether it be that of social intervention mechanisms, or whether it be on the question of crime and criminality, whether it be our young people engaging in sports, culture, and of course, in contemporary circumstance, we are talking here about Carnival, and of course, the engagement of stakeholders, whether they are in the steel band fraternity, whether they are in the mass construction or making fraternity, whether they are in the calypso or soca fraternity. The fact is that information such as this, fluid and very valuable, contributes to a better society because people are more informed. That is what a democracy in operation must revere, must have as critical pillars for decision making ultimately, which of course after 5 years, every 5-year cycle, in this case, we change government. So I want to get back to Minister Surat Singh's contribution this morning on the ground report, because it is significant. He was on the button. He was on the pulse of what is happening in the society. And as I said, it is clear that there was a conspiracy between the central bank and the central government under Rowley and the PNM, and of course Cho Chung and others, including of course Penelope Beckles. She cannot escape. And of course, as you would have noticed in every one of the contributions of the previous callers on the program tonight, the level of hypocrisy, the level of self-righteous indignation, the level of saying to you and I, you must do as I say, but don't do as I do. That is the epitome. That is the quintessential exhibition of a hypocrite. And we must see them for who and what they are. What are some of the critical issues as well that the minister presented to us this morning? Because I think it's important. I have a clip to play consistent with the theme Caribbean Man, which of course the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Amory Brown, I always have this effeminine adjective to describe this man because he doesn't come across as a genuine, but that being as it may, Amory Brown, yes, not Apron Brown, Amory Brown. Sorry about that, but slip on the tongue, you call it a Freudian slip. But that being as it may, the fact of the matter is that here it is, he made it very clear about the revitalization of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not seeing it in the context of economy alone, but all of Trinidad and Tobago, culturally, socially, psychologically, economically. You talk about physical infrastructure. You talk about, of course, the improvement of the commercial sector and the economic activities in the country across a lot of spectrum, thus of course suggesting that the diversification focus is real. The diversification attempt is upon us. And I say so against the background because the PNM was saying even during their presentation in the 25-26 budget, where you get the money from, knowing fully well the damage they would have done to our sovereign wealth, our sovereign reserve, let me put it that way. Whether it be that of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund or that of the reserve, which they met in a handsome position in 2015 when this blight, when this evil called Rowley came into office and met some $12 billion US, and by the time he left office on April 28 to 2025, which was last year, there was only of that 12 billion, only about $4 to $5 billion. And they have the audacity, the temerity, the gall, the effrontery, and the bold-facedness to then ask the question where the UNC, having come into office, as the caller rightly said, only 8 to 9 months, and asking where the money will come from, having, of course, flitted away and entered into, of course, the Heritage and Civilization. That never happened under the UNC, The UNC haven't been in office at least 3 times. Twice with Basio Pandey, and once before with, of course, Kamala Prasad Bissasa. And today, of course, Kamala Prasad Bissasa again. So that is 4 times. Never interfered with the Heritage and Civilization Fund because they knew it had repercussions for our credit rating by these international credit rating agencies such as Moody's and S&P, and therefore our ability to borrow money on the international market will be sullied, will be compromised, will be impaired. And so as a consequence of that, they left it alone. Not that they didn't have the option to go into it, but they left it alone. And they added to it, in fact. And of course, you had a very, what I consider to be reckless statements made by Imbert. For example, he said that that wasn't there to be a trophy. You cannot do that as a minister of finance, seriously concerned about the development of your country. And of course, since you know you have to borrow, you must want to borrow at in favorable terms too, of course, because we're talking about mortgaging the country for future generations, even though they weren't there to participate in the mortgaging, but have to pay. Joshua and all of them had to pay for what the present generation borrowed. Understand that. And you cannot take that slightly. Because every parent, for example, would want their children to inherit something where they don't have the stress of having to pay unnecessarily. Let they take what they know, that which was bequeathed to them, and then, of course, advance. And if they make a mess of it, then the future generations that would succeed them will hold them accountable. But the fact of the matter is that you cannot make these glib and reckless statements that will make international investors quiver. And on the ground report today, we were at pains to look at the education facilities company and how the Rowley, Stuart Young, P&M, with Penelope Beckles in it, government, dealt with small investors and businessmen. These men, because the education facilities company said to them, we have some schools to repair, or we have some toilet systems to upgrade, or we have schools to build, because they were solely responsible for the infrastructural development and assets increase for the education system in this country. And so they invited, and the businessmen, the small contractors responded. No, when time come to pay, even though they would have had some concerns about Rowley, and when they came into office in 2015, and they said they ain't paying, which of course, if you have some concerns in the election campaign, and now you get into office, obviously, just as the present government, they have some concerns with some of the transactions of the P&M, and they pursue investigations, as we have been told, whether it be URP, CPEP, etc. So they have that prerogative. But they were saying so during the course of the election. Well, the P&M in turn was saying the same thing about the UNC before they got into office in 2015. But here where the diversion and the insincerity and the belligerence and the toxicity of the last administration's attitude redounds to the detriment of all of Trinidad and Tobago in that simple, apparently simple scenario. Guess what? The small contractors and they got together and they went to court. Let me repeat. The small contractors who felt that they were not given a fair shake, they were maltreated, It wasn't right. And in addition to that, of course, when coming to the civil law and you want to take civil action, as in the case of breach of contract, for example, you have a statutory or a time bar or a time in which you can file to get justice. So these contractors faced with that reality, usually it's about 4 years. In some instances, it might be less. But they would have gotten legal advice and decided to file the cases in the court, just in case the government was engaged, of course. And I have no doubt now or then they would have, hoping that time will elapse and they can't go to court, and they therefore get away with all the people's investment, and of course send these small companies into bankruptcy, and therefore a lot of other social and economic family issues will now emerge from that, because people would have borrowed from their families in order to execute the contract that the education facilities company gave them. They would have gone to the neighborhood and convinced the neighborhood hardware with a contract in hand. Listen, I have a contract. It's a government contract. I must get money eventually. Credit me toilet bowls, credit me steel, lumber, galvanized, etc., cement, gravel, etc. All of that. And it's not to say that Rowley and the PNM don't know that, because they made the case when they were out of office. They made the case for these people who they considered to be persons who they hired when they were in office prior to 2010. So they can't say they don't know what the process is. So these small contractors, out of an abundance of caution, went to court. And the court, because the government, it wasn't interested, they didn't file responses to many of the cases that were pursued by these small contractors. And they would have gone there with paper in their hands, showing that they had, 1, a legitimate contract, 2, that they completed the contract, and 3, that it's time to pay, or when it was time to pay, the government simply say no. The PNM government, under Rowley, under Stuart Young, under Imsworth, under Amy Brown, yes, under Penelope Beckles, who is currently the opposition leader. Let's not waste time with these kinds of what I consider superficial and superfluous, and of course self-righteous indignation disposition. Suddenly they're holier than thou. They can't touch ants. They are now immaculate. Forget them. We have a job to do with serious people at the helm of Trinidad and Tobago's business. But let me conclude that scenario with respect, of course, to the Education Facilities Company. So when the courts examined the documents, most of them were now entitled and got, of course, a decision in their favor. In their favor, amounting to millions of dollars that the PNM under Rowley and the others had to find to pay them. And of course, if they don't, interest will accumulate. Guess what? Guess what the PNM did? The court having said, yes, you had a legitimate contract, the government is owing, and of course, it has nothing to do with whether the Education Facilities Company at any rate was not designed to make money. It was designed to facilitate government's school repair, construction, and of course the maintenance in terms of the assets by that particular ministry called the Ministry of Education. That is what the Education Facilities Company was designed for. It wasn't designed to make money. Nothing like, let's say, MTS, for example, was designed, of course, to get private contracts and so on. It wasn't like that. It was to get a grant or a subsidy, or I should say a subsidy, but a transfer from central government into their coffers so that they could execute government's policy with respect to repairs and construction of schools. That's what that was about. You see, I am emphasizing that because somehow Rowley and they start to say that it wasn't making money and thus the action that it took. Well, let me tell you what they did. They filed in the same court, people. Let me repeat. They filed in the same court after these people got a decision in their favor for the government to give them their money. They filed in the same court. Rowley and they filed in the same court. Petition to wind up the company. Yeah. To make it no more. So that the people will catch the ant, nenen, and so on as to who to go to now in order to get the money that the court said that the government was owing through that entity, because if it no longer exists, and I have no doubt in my mind, because it has not come to the fore, so therefore that conspiracy was in their mind to leave it in limbo. People don't know who to go to. Whether it's the Ministry of Finance, whether it's the Ministry of Education, whether the Ministry of Social Development, whether it be, of course, planning, you don't know to get your money. And it is still the same today, because we broach Sirat Singh today on that particular matter, because my co-host, Andy Williams, was also a contractor who found himself in that situation as well and got no pay. His company got no pay, having done the work, having completed the work. So I'm not saying that Vike. I'm not saying it either out of what I consider to be conflict of interests. No, I'm saying it because of the dastardness and because of the unprecedented, what I consider to be barbaric and uncivil way that the government of Rowley and they dealt with these small contractors, and the repercussions, as I have indicated before, still abounds even to today. They filed for winding up of the company so that these people don't know who to go to now, and that they have, of course, completion certificates, etc. in their possession, waiting for pay, but can't get pay because they didn't know who to go to. I trust that the present government looks into that dastard matter. Yes. So Joshua is bothering me here. Come in, Joshua. Come in. Oh gosh, boy. All right. Okay. Right. So that's it. That's it, Joshua. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. I'm a parent, so you know sometimes you indulge. So don't envy me, vex with me. All right, don't envy or vex, right? But it's my son, so I had to accommodate, right? Where of course it is not debilitating, but of course it will, of course, stop me in my stride. But that's all right. I'm sure we'll get back on the right track, having regard to the wealth of experience that is behind, of course, a program like this and the presenter. But the point I am making with respect, of course, to the Education Facilities Company is that PNM filed for winding up, saying that the company is making money. Imagine that they're making money when it was never designed to make money and so on. A part of the argument to wind it up. And therefore, they have discontinued the operations of the Education Facilities Company, leaving all of these contractors not just in limbo, not just in bad taste. That is why I tell you, whenever these people in the opposition today speak, you have to come to places like the corridor transformation, the ground report, and other entities, whether it be, and let me give him a play as well, whether it be Doubles and Coffee, yes, Anna Roberts, to get the truth. Or let me be as objective as possible in this subjective scenario. To get the other side of the story so that you could make the whole and therefore make a decision ultimately. Do not be fooled for one moment. So I'm glad that of course, the minister said, well, you know, they will have to look at it. They have not looked at it because there are so many other things that have priority that may be a relief that the former, or put another way, those persons who would have won their matters, they don't have to look at it because the court made a decision to, of course, close down the education facilities company. That doesn't mean that a person like myself will not, of course, pursue and regurgitate and repeat and remind as much as we can. I want to say as well that those persons who find themselves in that situation, I would love you to call me as well. Call me as well, because I'm going to raise it. You see, because it has, and Romney and they don't mind because they are so myopic and so self-serving and so greedy. Their avarice to deplete and to arrogate unto themselves this power to only satisfy their own kind. Yeah, it is called nepotism and cronyism. It is called corruption. You just have to look at Balize House and you know that is corruption. That is the epitome. But it has repercussions when this news like this goes to potential investors and they say the government robbed them in their own country and robbed their own citizens, having, of course, genuinely and religiously executed contracts that the government offered for satisfaction, and these companies applied, won their bids, and then you decide not to pay them. That is equivalent to some government maybe in Somalia. I would even go as far as to say Russia, where you have this dictatorial, autocratic, and of course oligarchic kind of structure that will, of course, favor those who they prefer and rather, and eliminate those who they don't like or may be opposed to them. But in the context of Trinidad and Tobago, we are neither of those. We are a democracy akin to the Western world. And we have the greatest and the most powerful democracy just north of us. And it is from there, not only do they have hegemonious influence on economic and monetary matters and investment matters. Not only that, but they have the means to enforce by way of military. We just saw that happen to Maduro recently. In spite of all the talk, we will come to that when I formally, of course, launch and engage in the hemispheric discussion that we must engage in, when, of course, I eventually find myself being able to share with you the video with Amy Brown, former, of course, Minister of Foreign Affairs, because it's important. And that is why I started with that particular calypso by the late, great Black Stalin, Caribbean man. It doesn't mean that I will not end with it, but I have not been able to fulfill what I hope that I would have been able to extrapolate and share with you. But that being as it may, I want to say, of course, It is 9:39. So, as I said, only an hour and a half we will be on air. So I want to thank you, of course, for joining me. I want to thank you for staying with us. And of course, we are going to move from strength to strength. When we open up the classes and so on, you'll see a different approach. But it's all in an attempt to educate, edify, and to, of course, have you make decisions in not only your own best interests, but that of Trinidad and Tobago. I am not asking you to accept wholesale that the pressures that would have visited or would have descended on the removal of URP and CPEP and the reforestation program. I'm not asking you to do that. Not asking you to accept that. But however, I'm asking you to rationalize, to think, and to visualize that this is an aberration, that this is a temporary fix to a particular problem where you, as an innocent bystander, if you want to call it that, but in the system, would have been affected by the non-presence of subsistence financial support. And by extension, many of the businesses that rely on you at one point in time and still do for that patronage, that support, whether it's purchasing of meat or chicken or provision or grocery items right on Prince Street here. They too are feeling it, the businesses. They have been coming to me and telling me. I've been talking, of course, to the Minister of... let me not call the ministry. I will just say a particular minister who I believe can assist in providing some, what I consider to be at least some seed capital. Seed here, not that these businesses are in its nascent or beginning stage, but to revive, to resurface, to resuscitate these businesses. And what they really want is working capital, which they don't have. So that will, of course, be in the form of circulating capital, buying goods, sell, and then, of course, they make a profit. They pay their light bills, they pay other costs, including their employees, and so on. Because the important thing here as well is that they would be able, with such assistance, to pay their employees who otherwise will be like the CPEP workers, or who were genuinely employed there, not under the skullduggery as we have seen with respect to the contractors, but the ordinary Joe, who have found it very difficult for Christmas, into the New Year, and into the present circumstance. At least give these businesses an opportunity to employ more, to take up some of that excess labor that is out there, consequential of that decision, as we await, I say 6 months to a year, for the rolling out of the 70,000 jobs that will make Trinidad and Tobago a place where you may have to then look to import people to do work in Trinidad and Tobago, having regard to the revitalization strategy and initiatives that has been announced by this government. And they are well on their way towards, of course, passing the talking stage, passing the expression of interest stage, but to put out their real programs and projects for implementation that will now, of course, cause the economy to spin and the diversification process to eventually emerge, and Trinidad and Tobago a better place economically, socially, and of course doing that side by side with addressing, of course, crime and criminality. I want to say finally, as I've observed with that interview with the Minister of Planning this morning, and I said, because he said, I think he was in the presence of a news clip that says that there was a scenario where the economy would have shown certain signs that the IMF would have noted, but the government says that, listen, that the prescription that you are suggesting, cut labor, no, cut this, cut that, no, devalue the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, no, because it's people we are dealing with. The government remain committed to that. But I think what I was really getting at is that crime, murders in particular, has been reduced to the point of 44%. But that has not been so since 2014. Again, giving credence to the argument that we would have made that when the UNC or any other government, in the case of NAL, is in office, crime decreases. And when the PNM is in office, it simply escalates. You have a choice to make. You take, of course, the temporary inconvenience for the greater good, because the question has not yet been answered by the PNM. If they had won the elections, God forbid, as he did, where would they have gotten the money from to do whatever they wanted to do? You can't tell me it is the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, because that was never tested. And you talked about, while it was tested, talking about, of course, the tax, the tax that they would have collected some money for, about $80 million. I talk about the property tax, yes. Well, that in itself was a flawed premise, because they said they will never engage in property tax. But at any rate, that could not have even begin to treat with the level of debt that Trinidad and Tobago, both external and internal, I think $170 billion over the 10 years that the PNM would have been over. So that would have scratched the surface. So clearly we are on the right path. The decisions that would have been made today, the other Caribbean islands are now, of course, taking their cue from Trinidad in terms of how to deal with the United States, because we did it right in what the PNM would have preferred to be a crisis. And as they claim, a world war would have started with Trinidad in the center. None of the sort. Hogwash. And Venezuela will have no choice, as we predicted. We'll have to treat with Trinidad and Tobago because of our gas infrastructure. Must deal with us in terms of those cross-border gas deals that would have been scuttled by the PNM and would have been terminated by only talk by Maduro. But where he is, he doesn't stand a ghost of a chance. And where the new president is in, the position she's in, she will have to play ball. Trinidad and Tobago can only benefit. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And see you, of course, tomorrow night when we will continue with these and more. And don't forget, of course, that tomorrow morning the ground report, Andy and myself, as we continue to treat with the issues that you may or may not be aware of, or you may be able to glean a little more from it. So I will end with, of course, Chogdus's Three Blind Mice to give it a Caribbean flavor. But of course, because I did not focus on the Caribbean let's say, delivery as I planned, because Apron Brown was supposed to be at the center. Amy Brown was supposed to be at the center of it as a former minister of CARICOM and Foreign Affairs. But let's go to Chogdus instead.
If I like, ask Kamal about the bacchanal down at the convention when Ivan asked Williams, Doc, why Venezuela don't want we to smelt? Doctor, can you tell me why Jamaica vex with me? Eric said, tell Manley and Burnham I've got oil. Let Barrow kiss me tail, oil don't spoil. Three of them come like three blind mice. Don't you know, Manley, Burnham, Barrow? They're running about only setting strife, cutting their tails with Venezuela's knife. Did you ever see such jackasses in your life as them three blind mice? Ivan said, look, doctor, didn't you ask Venezuela for warships to help we in the 70 mutiny? From Barrow we get rum, from Manley aluminum, Burnham feeding we with rice, yet you calling him a blind mice. Eric said, let Burnham keep he rice, I've got oil. They will have to pay my price, oil don't spoil. Three of them come like